Welcome into Between the Pylons. I'm John Camacho.
And this is Jacob Waters.
And guys, we have an absolutely awesome show for you guys today. Just switching it up a little bit. Usually we talk a lot of NFL, but this week we want to talk college a lot. So we're going to go through the games at the end of the show, all the big games in college football. We're going to do a 10 pick mock. All right. So we did it ahead of time. We went back and forth on one mock draft, kind of had some conversations. So that's kind of still another like college-y, bringing that in. Really what we want to do is we want to talk about some of the top picks, some of the top names. If you stick with us at Between the Pylons, we are going to go in depth in the NFL draft throughout the draft process. We are both huge draft fans, especially, we're both huge draft fans.
Yeah, of course.
I do draft profiles on the Between the Pylons YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, please check that out. So all of that is going to be coming, but this week, this is like our first, we're dipping our toe into the NFL draft, right? That's going to be awesome. And we got a great show. We're going to talk about some Bovada Sportsbook odds when it comes to the first pick in the draft and things like that. We're really excited to get into all that. So let's get going. And before we talk about all of that, if you have stuck with us at Between the Pylons, you know one thing above all else, that my great partner, my esteemed colleague,
thank you,
Jacob Waters, is a die-hard Auburn fan, and has always supported Gus Malzahn. And if you don't know where I'm going with this, you have lived under a rock, because Gus Malzahn was let go as the Auburn head coach. And I know you have a lot on this. We've talked about this, and I'm going to let you just run with it real quick before I let you do that. I just want to say, from an outsider's perspective, somebody who's not emotionally attached to the franchise or anything along those lines, I'm shocked that he gets fired in a COVID year when he had an all SEC opponents. And I mean, that just makes absolutely no sense to me. And having a 6-4 record, yeah, it wasn't great, but you lost to you lost to Alabama, Georgia, A&M. It's all three good ones, and the bad one was South Carolina. You had one bad loss, really. That's all I wanted to say. I'm going to let you run with it.
I'll start with the bad, and I'll work my way up to the positive reality, because that's where I always try to get myself.
Yeah.
But man, I'm not even going to try to lie to anyone out there. I was hurt. Auburn fans, anyone who's paid attention to any social media knows the scrutiny that Gus Malzahn has been under for probably the past 4 years. I would say the man has been coaching for his job year in, year out. For one, I don't think that's fair to him. I think he has done a phenomenal job in his 8 years at Auburn. He's given me some of the best football moments I've ever had in my life. Being with the team in 2010, he ran the offense with the team that had Cam Newton and won the BCS National Championship, to taking us back to one in 2013 where we lost to FSU, unfortunately. It was a miraculous
Go Noles.
season. Yeah, you got that one on us. We got the kick six, the
immaculate deflection.
Exactly.
Thing.
So many different plays, memories that came from that. 2017, he won the SEC, and we were a hurt Kerryon Johnson away from beating Georgia in that championship game, because I truly believe that's what would have happened there. You know, the past few seasons, it's been disappointing here and there. There's one thing that I always go back to, and this is the man that can beat Nick Saban. There are very few in the country who can say that. Being in the same state as Nick Saban, I don't think Gus gets enough credit for that. I'm sorry, we are living in one of the greatest dynasties we have ever seen across all sports, let alone when you just look at the small area that's college football. The greatest mountain that will never be moved from Bama. They are year in, year out, number one recruiting, number one in the state, just all in the same SEC West division. And to think that Gus is able to go through that, man, one of the only ones, that's why he got paid after that 2017 season. There's a reason that he was the 5th highest paid coach in the nation for that. I understand downward trend. I'm going to start to work towards the better end of this. Wasn't able to develop Bo Nix, it looks like. Bo Nix, promising 5-star number 2 quarterback in the overall class, hasn't taken steps in the right direction.
Look, and I know where you're going with this. I think that's unfair. I think that's an unfair criticism.
Because he never got the offseason.
For COVID year. He had freshman year, which you can say what you want about Bo Nix. I'm not going to defend Bo Nix for how he played his freshman year, but I'm also going to say, like, there were moments where it's like, oh shit, this dude could be special.
Yeah.
Like, there were at least those moments. This year, he didn't progress. Okay, sure. When the fuck was he supposed to? I mean, it was COVID year. A lot of shit was fucked up. I'm sorry. I'll let you
No, you're good. I defended a lot of Gus because it felt like 90% of the Auburn fan base wanted Gus gone for a long time.
Yeah.
And now I will speak directly to you 90%. The man had 10-win seasons. The man won the SEC West with the greatest mountain of football in Alabama that we've ever seen. He got through that. not once, but twice in his time at Auburn. I don't know what bar you're setting for that next coach, but I'll let you know I'm watching. Mm-hmm. I'm seriously watching, because to look at what UT did getting rid of Philip Fulmer, I promise you, they do whatever they could to get that man back in there and go and avoid those 10, 12 years of absolute just travesty that they're going through right now, and they're still not out of it. Do you not realize that by taking a man who was doing a good to great job away, what you were opening up? You had to pay the man $21 million, so I hope the people on campus are ready to fork that money out, big boosters. Have fun. I want to see where we're going to go forward, because you do not fire a man after all that he's done. Yes, it's like a longtime girlfriend. Right now, it wasn't going good, and eventually there was a time to split. I understand that the offense wasn't clicking. There's times to move apart, but if you pay a $21 million buyout, which is the third highest in history, you better have a man lined up. And right now, off the top of my head, the candidates, none of them say, damn, that's better than Gus Malzahn immediately.
And I'm going to sit here and say right now, if I am the top candidate in college football, right, I get my choice of any open job, I'm not looking to play Nick Saban every fucking year. I'm not. Yeah. I'm not looking to play in the hardest conference in college.
To have to recruit in the same state as that man?
Recruit in the same state. Okay, you have to play Nick Saban. Hey, hopefully you can have a good record against him. Okay, if you beat him, you still have to go through Georgia. You still have to play LSU a bunch. You still have to play all of these heavyweight fucking teams every single year. And guess what? Auburn has been a part of that.
Yes.
Every LSU fan that had to fucking play Auburn has been worried about Auburn for the past 7 or 8 years. Every Georgia fan is worried about Georgia, or is worried about Auburn when it comes. And shit, every Alabama fan, one of our good friends, Michael Corkin, fucking has to see Alabama. He's not excited about that game, and he's excited about that game. He's not excited about the game in the sense that he knows that they're going to crush. Like, Alabama fans were scared of Auburn. Every single team. I'm not saying Auburn was the greatest fucking team in the world, and I understand the naysayers towards Gus Malzahn, but just the absolute ridiculousness of saying that really fucking good, competitive every single season isn't good enough. Man, I don't know what you want.
And that's where I lose it. Yes.
I'm an FSU fan. You know, I bust your balls all the time for that championship win. That was a great year. And I thought we had another 10 to 20 years of Jeff Fisher and being at the top of the ACC and being competitive every single season, having a chance to get into the playoffs every single season. And then it was taken away from me. And I don't know when, if ever, FSU is going to get back to that. And it was a different situation. Obviously, Fisher wasn't fired. He moved on to what he considered a better job. It is what it is. But, man, I can tell you, being where you've been, knowing every single game, it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a dogfight, but you are in every single game. You are competitive in every single game versus, I mean, shit, I wasn't sure we were going to beat Duke this year, and we almost did.
It's a scary road going forward just because you have to look at the guy that's going to inherit that job and know, okay, like you said, okay, I got to beat Bama. Gus was 4-4 with him in 8 years on his time. That wasn't good enough. Okay, that's fine. Well, I got to get some away wins at Georgia, LSU. That's where Gus really struggled when you look at his resume. He wasn't able to win. He's 0-4 at the away games. But then that every other year where Auburn's schedule lines up and we get to take 2 of the 3 big dogs at home, that's where Gus was really able to be productive. And I get you don't have the national holding the trophy hopes in that, but Alabama has set such a high standard of perfection. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to be okay with not hitting that. Let's be honest. There's only been 7 teams that have made the playoff since the playoff has opened up. Mm-hmm. It's not like there's just random Big 10 teams, random, Big 12, Pac-12 hopping up in there all the time. It's an honor to be in there. And there's a group that's up there for a reason because they have the continuity and their system is set up to perfection. Auburn, we were going in a good direction, not a great direction, a good direction. And now we have just jeopardized all of it. So I will be watching. Maybe Hugh Freeze, I would be okay with that, getting his second chance in the SEC. I know he runs a good offense. We'll see where it goes.
I haven't been super impressed with what Hugh Freeze has done with Nebraska.
Liberty.
Scott
Frost, yeah.
That's right. Okay.
Hugh Freeze is the guy at Liberty.
Frost and Freeze, I'm sorry.
You're
Scott absolutely, Hugh Freeze is, I was thinking of the wrong guy, I apologize.
Hugh Freeze, his time at Ole Miss was really good. He got into trouble with the scandal. Alabama tried to bring him in as an OC a few years ago, and the SEC said no because of the trouble that he got in with Ole Miss. He's doing great things with Liberty. He's doing great things with an ex-Auburn quarterback in Malik Willis, who transferred out for Bo Nix coming in. There's a lot of question marks, and I will support my team till the end no matter what. Yes, there was a time to move on from Gus. I think this year there are some things in the air where it was like, damn, right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Land of Bob Stoops, land in Urban Meyer. No one's going to hear another word about it because that's a name that is immediately better than a Gus Malzahn at coach. But you go out there and get Cristobal from Oregon, I'm sorry. I cannot definitively say that he's better.
Yeah, no, he's not. I'm sorry. I am not a fan of Cristobal. I do not understand the hype around Cristobal's name. You had a dude who was a top 5 talent in the NFL draft at the quarterback position, wasted it. Really, I mean, look, I went through and watched 2 years of film on Justin Herbert, and there was so few glimpses of how good he fucking was because Cristobal's offense didn't give him a chance to prove how good he was. Then he goes to the NFL and he's fucking awesome. Granted, yeah, the team around him isn't good, whatever, but he's been awesome. It makes absolutely no sense.
Well, Cristobal's already lost to California this year and Oregon State.
Makes no fucking sense.
With a far better roster.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Auburn, we'll close the book on that and we'll see where it goes forward. I am worried about my team's state as a whole, and I know fear is not a reason you should keep a coach, but I look at UT. I look at some of the bottom dwellers of the SEC who have never been able to get their feet back under them in a time where we have Florida on the rise, Georgia's still there. LSU might be coming up with Coach O, who knows? They just got a natty, though. You take natties and be shit the next year, any given week. We'll see where it goes.
All right. I absolutely agree. Do you want to talk about any other firings in college football that are worth mentioning real quick?
No, I mean, it's just going to depend on what happens. I know Florida's defensive coordinator, Todd Grantham, he's in some hot water right now with their most recent loss to LSU. LSU's on a really down year. It's weird to see Dan Mullen's relationship with Grantham and how he is so loyal to him that you could have Kyle Trask in this and Kyle Pitts, Kadarius Toney, such a good offensive slate, but ignore the fact that you're getting beat on the back end in defense. That's ultimately what cost you your playoff run this year.
Yeah.
Sad to say.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I didn't know if you wanted to mention Vanderbilt. Obviously, that's a smaller school.
No,
it affects us because we live in Tennessee,
Vandy
but it might not
Clark
hit
Lee, the Notre Dame defensive coordinator. We'll see what it is. I think it's a lateral move.
Okay.
I think to be Vanderbilt, you have to. I really want to see a unique young offensive mind, a hot candidate step up and get that job and be like a James Franklin. What James Franklin was able to do. You have to spin something to these kids at Vandy that is going to get them thinking outside the box and be like, man, we could be the first class that really gets Vandy going.
I look at Vanderbilt as the ultimate jumping off point. It's the ultimate, like you go to Vandy and if you perform well, if you win 6-7 games a year, do what we saw the dude who went to Penn, James Franklin. Sorry, I lost the name. You just said it. Do what James Franklin was able to do is a great jumping off point to the next job. And that sucks for Vandy fans. We're friends with a couple of Vandy fans, but that's just the nature of the beast. If you can be a really, really great SEC option for these up and coming coaches, that's not a bad thing to be, I don't think.
Yeah.
That's a great thing.
I'll say one more. If Clark Lee is the guy, he graduated from Vandy. He's a Vandy alum, a longtime known booster for the program. Mm-hmm. So he has a genuine love for that. If he can be the right guy in there, because Notre Dame has always had a stout defense over the years, this is his landing spot, not a jump spot for him because of where his roots are tied to Vandy. So if he hits, you got a good one. We'll see.
Fair enough. All right, so I'm going to ask one more question for you, and then we'll wrap up the Auburn and just this portion of college. We'll get into the draft and then back into some college picks. If there was Bovada odds on the Urban Meyer Auburn connection, right? Yeah. If there was odds that what would you put it at? How likely do you think it is that Urban Meyer would say, I want to come back, I want to play Nick Saban every year, I want to be in that situation, and I want to prove that I'm the greatest coach of greatest college coach of all time, because it would be a legacy move more than anything else. That's why I would put it at plus 5,000 or higher. It's going to be very slim. Urban is a legendary coach. Urban said no to the Texas job, and Texas athletic directors come out and said, Tom Herman's our guy. Listen, at the end of the day, if you had Urban Meyer sniffing at that job with the Texas recruits, you take that any day. The great state of Texas and all those football recruits that you could just get. Yeah, you're not going to turn that down. I'm sorry. That is prime rib college football dream job. Yeah. Gus Malzahn was rumored for it a long time ago, and he stayed at Auburn. Should have left. I'm sorry. We didn't treat him right. Urban's not going to say yes to an Auburn where you got to go through Nick Saban, where you got to compete against that every single year. Yeah. And let's be honest, a lesser talent pool. Bama gets the 5 stars. We get the 4 stars that they say no. Yeah. There's the occasional time where we get the guy, Tank Bigsby, freshman of the year, who decides, I just like Auburn. That's what I'm going to do. A Bo Nix situation where 5-star number 2 Probably could have gone to Alabama if he really wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. He was the number 2 quarterback in the class.
Yeah. So he chooses Auburn obviously because of the family connection. Absolutely fair. All right, let's move on. We're going to do the mock draft. As I said in the intro here, this is not going to be a full 32 pick first round mock draft. Mainly because we don't want to be fake about this. Like, we want to be honest with our viewers.
We're going to do the 10 and show you good names that are going to be up there.
We're going to talk about the names we have been excited about all season, things that we have talked about on our own. And we did a little bit of research. Mainly, we looked up the slate of what it would be right now, and then looked at a couple names that other people are talking about. Beyond that, we just want to give you guys the big names that you're going to hear throughout the draft season. And as I said in the intro, and I'm going to say it again, we are going to be talking college or draft throughout the draft season and past the draft season. That is going to be the main topic of focus on this pod. So if you're interested in stuff like that, please stick around with us. Please subscribe to the Between the Pylons YouTube to check out the draft profiles. Listen to our podcast every week, all that stuff. I really appreciate it. If you're interested in that type of content, you're going to get a lot of that here. But let's get going. And first pick, I had a first pick, right? I picked first because you didn't want me to have the second pick, and we'll get to that in a second. Number 1, Jets are slated for that number 1 pick. Doesn't look like it's going to change at this point. It might, but
there's a chance.
There's a chance, but we'll see what happens. No surprise here. Trevor Lawerance. I believe if you go on Bovada and you look up the odds for the number 1 pick, you're going to see that Trevor Lawerance is minus 750.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you this. Is there any way, and I'll open up to the possibility of injury, any single scenario where Trevor Lawerance is not the number 1 pick?
The Jets go on a run, the Jags go on a run, and the Bengals lose out. And the Bengals get the number 1 overall pick. That is the only way that Trevor Lawerance is not going here, because the Bengals, then I think the Bengals will try to trade out of that situation.
Even if that happens, there's going to be a feeding frenzy for that pick.
But if it wasn't, that would be Penei Sewell, the offensive lineman, going to the Bengals number 1 overall. But I am sorry, at minus 750 odds, you bet 750 win 100.
Yeah.
It's as sure money as it gets. If you have that money in your pocket, just if it's in your savings or whatever, go do it just because you're going to get that money back. I'm telling you.
It's a scary bet.
I get it.
It feels like it doesn't feel like you can get any more.
I'm so high on Trevor Lawerance, just the same as everyone else, that it's going to hit.
Yeah.
Whether or not you think he's going to be good or not, that's up for debate. But when it comes to this number 1 pick, there's no debate about who QB1 is. I'm sorry, it's over.
Yeah, and I don't even think there's much of a debate. This is going to be as similar to when Andrew Luck came out, and obviously there's other examples.
It's Andrew Luck. It is a Peyton Manning.
Yeah, we weren't really paying attention as much. We were pretty young when Peyton Manning came out. So Andrew Luck is the connection that we personally have, where there was no debate. There was really nobody even arguing that he wouldn't be a great quarterback in the NFL. Really, that I know of. There might have been a couple naysayers, but for the most part, yeah, that's the number 1 pick. That's a slam dunk. Number 2 is your pick, and I want you to explain the reasoning, and then I'll explain why this number 2 pick was taken away from me.
Of course,
before we even really started this, and I think it's a fun story.
I had to, just because it's going to be up for debate, and we're really going to get to see where these analysts have put their money where their mouth is. That's why I'm kind of excited, because
give the pick.
We go so in depth in it. It's Justin Fields, Ohio State quarterback.
Yeah.
With so many different quarterbacks.
And by the way, going to the Jags.
It's the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Good number 2 pick.
2 through 6 quarterbacks, man, can get flipped around, tossed up. You never know what it's going to be. I like Justin Fields. I have stayed with Justin Fields. He is a very accurate, decent pocket passer. He maneuvers well. He is mobile. He makes the plays when you have to. He's done everything at Ohio State that you could ask. Yep. Your biggest naysay against him is he doesn't do it against good talent. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, there are several other guys on this list and later on that play just the same amount of talent but do worse against that. He's near perfection. If he would have played a full season, honestly, he would have been the Heisman winner. Mm-hmm. And that's why the Jags are going to get him. I think he's a playmaker.
All right, and tell him why you took this pick away from me.
I took this pick away because it was going to go to another quarterback who we will mention later. And I just felt like it's not outlandish. That name's going to be rising a lot.
Okay.
And I'm telling you.
Well, let's just say it. We won't say where he's going on this pick, but Zach Wilson, I won't talk about why I like him so much, but look, Jacob called it, privately between us. And then I think you talked about it on the pod too.
Pick was up, I said, you can't do him there.
Yeah. It's because I know that I'm going to be behind Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson is the prototypical quarterback that I personally like, that I am a fan of. And look, everyone has their preference. That doesn't make me wrong. It's my bias, and I will 100% 100% own that. I just think this type of quarterback is the type of quarterback that is where the NFL is going. Right now. I've seen a lot of them succeed a lot at the next level recently. So I'll follow that trend. And look, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It is what it is. I think Zach Wilson's a great quarterback, and you don't disagree with that either.
No, I like Zach Wilson a lot.
You're standing by at this point. And look, and this isn't. I won't. You can tell me if you disagree, but there's a chance that you could switch your opinion too, and once you dive into it a little bit more.
I'm not gonna say that Zach Wilson isn't QB2. He has flashes of that.
Your argument.
I've seen enough of Justin Fields. Jacksonville, you cannot risk taking the franchise guy and missing.
And your argument to me was when we're doing this super early. Like, this isn't like a realistic. This is just talking about the number one guys. He was basically saying it would be disingenuous to put Zach Wilson ahead of Justin Fields at this point. Totally fair argument. Yeah. I didn't fight him hard on it. I was like, you know what, you just take the number 2 pick, so I don't have to be put in that situation. Because he's right. He's absolutely right.
On Bovada about Justin Fields going number 1 overall, though.
Yeah. Let me pull it up so we have it here.
Listen, it's different. It's out there, and honestly, it's plus 550. And to think that I think it should be more, it goes back to the Trevor Lawerance odds. I think it should be more just because I'm sorry, Trevor is that much better than anyone else in this class with it.
He is the next option. It's him and then Penei Sewell, who we'll talk about in a second.
Be something. I know that I can't compare this to a Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, because they weren't that good. Mm-hmm. But Sam Darnold coming out was one of the highest graded quarterbacks by most analysts out there. Mm-hmm. It was shocking when Baker went number 1. Oh, yeah. It really was.
Yeah.
It would be 10 times
beyond that. Yeah. It would be beyond that. Yeah, absolutely.
But hey,
it crazier things have happened. We'll move on. Number 3 pick. This is your pick. No. Oh yeah, this is my pick. I'm sorry. This is Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, I think they need to shore up their offensive line. Penei Sewell is close to like a slam dunk number 1 offensive lineman out there out of Oregon. He has been the dude. He would have been a top 5 pick if he came out last year, but he couldn't. We're assuming he's going to come out this year. If he does, he will be a top 3, top 5 pick. I feel like he'll be the first offensive player taken that's not a quarterback.
You slam dunked it right here. Bengals can't go wrong with this.
Yeah. And they need offense line.
You have Jonah Williams from last year who was hurt his rookie year coming back, and hopefully you can really start to make strides in protecting Burrow, because we saw what happens when you don't.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it was unfortunate that this past draft where they took Burrow, and they made a lot of good decisions. I mean, obviously T. Higgins has been an awesome addition that they got with the 33rd pick. They didn't really attack the offensive line until way later in the draft, and it just didn't end up working out for them. I think that was a mistake on their part. They probably should have taken a swing at offensive linemen in the 3rd round, because it's bad. It's really bad. Exactly. So they have to go here. I think if they went anywhere else, there's an outside chance that Leatherwood ends up being the number 1 offensive lineman taken. I don't think it's going to happen. We don't think it's going to happen. But Alex Leatherwood, who's not on this list, is the other offensive lineman to think. I don't think we have another offensive lineman that we're going to be talking about on this one. I think that's the only other name out of Alabama that should be known. There's
one out of Michigan, pretty solid. There's a lot of them out there.
There's a lot of names, of course.
One out of Texas, 6'7" guy. But at the end of the day, it's Penei. Penei is, people have compared him to Anthony Munoz. I mean, that's one of the greatest linemen of all time. Yeah. To be mentioned with that, I can't get off of it. But number 4, Chargers. We have them picking right here. This one was kind of tough because there were some different areas they could go.
This is where it opens up, right?
It does. Yeah. Right here's where the first 3 pretty scripted. After this is where you're going to see a lot of people be like, all right, there's some roads here, because it's offense or defense for the Chargers.
Yeah.
And their secondary is getting older, mainly their cornerback position.
Yeah.
And when they fall off hard. So why not get the best one in the class, in my opinion, in Patrick Surtain out of Alabama? We saw
Patrick Surtain the second.
That his dad was able to do in the league.
Exactly.
Legendary career. Hall of Fame?
I think he's a Hall of Famer.
He's Hall of Fame. I believe I could be wrong there. I know how good of a player he is, though, and the highlights that I've seen out of it. You're able to get that same thing coming in at the Chargers, and you're going to bolster your secondary and your defense, which you're really going to need that. Your offense is going in the right way.
Yeah, I remember watching film, and again, a lot of these guys I've seen anecdotally, but I haven't really studied. But we'll obviously get to that as the process goes on. But I remember watching film on Diggs last year, the corner of Alabama that ends up going to the Cowboys in the 2nd round last year. I remember watching film on him, and Patrick Surtain just kept popping. I was like, am I watching the wrong guy? Like, what's going on here? And it come to find out, it's the guy who's going to be a top 10 pick next year. So yeah, I'm 100% on board with that pick. Love that pick. And then the Cowboys at number 5.
This is a big one.
And this is where I kind of said, okay, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but this is like, we're not doing this for accuracy. I wanted to have this name in there. I'm not saying this is going to happen. Obviously, Cowboys number 5 going quarterback, Zach Wilson, BYU. I do believe Zach Wilson will be the number 2 or 3 quarterback to go off the board. And I could be wrong on that. Trey Lance is going to be in the conversation. Mac Jones is going to be in the conversation. A lot of names, actually. Kyle Trask is going to be in the conversation. That's the last quarterback we have, and we will talk plenty about quarterbacks. But I wanted to bring up the possibility of the Cowboys saying, hey, we have a great foundation for a football team. We have a ton of players that we're paying. Our offensive line is going to get better when it gets healthier next year. Why do we want to pay Dak Prescott $35 million? And I'm not saying he's not bad. He's not a good quarterback. He absolutely is, and he probably even deserves that. But on this roster, this team, do you need to pay a Dak Prescott, or do you go out and get a young, cheap option for the next 5 years and try and build around him and try and win now? I mean, is that fair to say? Obviously, it's hard to say that.
There's a reason you popped it up and mentioned it, and it's like, yeah, I mean, listen, you offered Dak $35 million when he was healthy. He said no. He believed in himself, which is awesome and everything. And it's just unfortunate the injury happened. Yeah. And now, what do you do?
Listen, there's been articles that have come out basically arguing or kind of pointing out the situation that Dak's in, and it's actually better. He has even more negotiation power, and really this would be the only move the Cowboys could make if they decided to drag their feet on the Dak Prescott signing.
The reason I say that, though, is that they dragged their feet in the past with Dak.
Yes.
With a healthy Dak and a proven Dak. Dak,
great quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We're great quarterback, but you just got to see what you got to do with your paychecks and balancing your books. It just depends.
This is what I'm going to say, and we've seen it. Okay, let me frame this conversation just real quick. At some point, there is going to be an NFL quarterback or NFL team, NFL franchise that has a young quarterback that has been doing really good, that has played really, really well, and they're going to make the decision not to pay him the $35-40 million and instead go with a younger option out of college. It's going to happen. At some point, an NFL team is going to say, hey, I don't want to pay this quarterback who's average, not terrible. It's not bad to be average, but who is average, but not an all-star, the all-star money on par with the Russell Wilsons and Patrick Mahomes and all the other things. Look, you can make the argument. We've seen their division rival, the Eagles, are now playing their second round pick instead of Wentz because they pay Carson Wentz. And look, Carson Wentz has been hurt, and there's been other issues there. I get that, but I look at the Rams right now. I don't think Jared Goff is doing anything special for the Rams. The Rams are a great team. They're winning and they're doing a lot of things really well. But I would argue that you could put a Jalen Hurts in there, and at this point in the season, they'd be doing fine right now. Maybe that's a bold thing to say, but a team that runs through their defense and their running game, and Jared Goff's just average. So those are the two teams that come to mind as teams that maybe could have made that decision. The Cowboys are another team. Maybe they make that decision. I'm not saying they're going to. It's not likely even, but I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason we had Zach Wilson, the quarterback, mentioned, just because it's going to be that argument, that decision that's going to happen. The easier pick would be going cornerback here, and you would have to get one of the guys, Caleb Farley, J.C. Horn, that are going to be later on down there.
There's a lot of different ways you could go with the Cowboys if you don't go quarterback. Obviously.
Yeah, exactly. All right, and at number 6, we have the Carolina Panthers. They're going to go Micah Parsons, linebacker. Yeah. I think they're really missing that Luke Kuechly role on defense. And I'm not going to sit here and say that he fits that exactly, but it's your commander on your defense. Yeah. Micah Parsons is linebacker 1. He is just a polarizing force up front. And yeah, I know the pick's probably going to be to go offense because you went all defense last year. But when the board falls the way that it has so far, and looking at it forward, you can't miss on him right there.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think this is one of those situations where if you look at the Panthers pick, yes, they went defense all last year, and you kind of think, okay, rebuild, this second year of their rebuild. Do you go offense this year? Like, that's the logic there. I get that, but Michael Parsons, he deserves to be a top 5, top 6 pick in the draft. I think he will be. It wouldn't make sense for him to go to the Cowboys, obviously, because
he just can't fall.
Yeah, he just can't fall too far. Panthers could be a dark horse to take a quarterback. That's possible, but they did all right with Bridgewater. I certainly didn't think that Bridgewater was the reason they were losing a lot of games anyway. They're just a young team that just wasn't great. They made some serious strides of defense. They hit on a Jeremy Chin, who might end up being the defensive rookie of the year. Obviously, you got Derek Brown, who's been awesome in the middle there. I think they want to shore up that defense. If you're not going to go defense here, you maybe go quarterback, but if you're not going to do that, you probably just go offensive line. I think that was the only other.
O-line, I guess, or quarterback, because your weapons surrounding that is really good. I mean, you were able to go out. You scored some points against the Buccaneers, elite defense, the Chiefs. Positive all around.
Yeah,
so shore up the defense, like we said.
I absolutely agree, and it's not like you don't need help with offensive weapons. That's for damn sure. We'll move on to Falcons at number 7. What do the Falcons need? What do the Falcons always need? I mean, they drafted a cornerback last year in the first round who's awesome, and he's actually playing really well down the stretch. I think they need another one for the other side because their defense just isn't good. They're going to have to go defense somewhere, I feel like. So this pick, Caleb Farley, cornerback, Vatek, I think he's one of the first guys to opt out this season. So we don't have any film from this year, but he opted out for a reason because he knew he was going to be a top end talent. It is so scary. It is so scary that we're going to be getting into this conversation with these top picks on guys that haven't played in a year. They haven't played football in a year. That's scary in the sense that, how often do we have top guys that we're looking at for the draft that just fall off in their last year in college and end up being guys that we thought could be top 10 picks, end up being, mid, second, third round picks? That's where it's scary, and that's just the situation that all of these teams are going to be in when they make a decision to take a guy who opted out or didn't play a lot this year. Just is what it is. I don't think you can be afraid of that with this guy. All-star dude. Obviously, if he's going to have a big offseason to stay in this type of range, but I think he's a name that you should absolutely know.
Yeah, I mean, whenever it comes the draft, pro day, combines, and all that stuff, he's going to knock it out of the water.
Yeah, there's going to be a Senior Bowl and everything. He's physical. Yeah. He's
in your face. He's gritty. He plays man well. He plays press. He's able to do it all in zone. So he fits this mold for any style defense that you want. And the Falcons really need a cornerback. AJ Terrell looks like a really good hit so far.
Yeah,
but man, you got to have more if you're going to be able to compete at the end of the day. Right now, if the Falcons stay, there's rumors about Falcons quarterback. Not going to lie. There's rumors about Falcons going wide receiver out there because who knows what they're going to do with Matt Ryan, Julio Jones combination. For now, given what we have in front of us, it's Caleb Farley just because he's the next best corner off the board.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And then your
I'll take your Dolphins, and I will do my pick, and then we will do the thought that because we had a conversation about this one because I just think this is something that you cannot miss on. It is another guy who sat out. Awesome athlete. I think that has a chance to be one of the greatest wide receivers on Combine Draft Day buzz around that we have seen in a long time.
Yeah.
It is Jamar Chase out of LSU.
Yeah.
He is something different, man. I'm telling you. Even
Listen,
last year when you look at Justin Jefferson.
That's exactly what I was going to get. And I just want to say this real quick. Justin Jefferson is the best rookie wide receiver this year, right? And he played on this team with Jamar Chase. Watching Justin Jefferson was awesome film, but Jamar Chase was superior wide receiver at every single level. This is the exact same feeling I had about a Brandon Ayuk with Brandon Ayuk looks so much better than N'Keal Harry did, and N'Keal Harry went in the first round. Brandon Ayuk obviously ends up going in the first round as well. I feel like Brandon Ayuk is going to have a much better career than N'Keal Harry. I think it's very similar to that, except better at both. Jamar in the sense that Justin Jefferson is going to be a great wide receiver. Jamar Chase has the possibility, the opportunity to be an elite all-time great wide receiver. That's his ceiling.
And that's why I say you can't miss out on that. I know you have a lot of great weapons at wide receiver right now, and it's looking good. But man, help Tua out. Get him a true Devontae Parker, Jamar Chase duo that could kill.
Yeah, so we did talk about this. These last couple of picks, I'm going to be honest, I think from 7 to 10, it kind of just became a roundtable discussion as far as instead of just I want to make this pick, you want to make that pick. We just kind of really wanted to have the best names in there. And I think Jamar Chase would have been in here no matter what because the Eagles would have taken him if the Dolphins don't, in our mock at least. I had an issue with it. My big question was, do the Dolphins want to take Jamar Chase when we do have a Preston Williams who's looking really good? Obviously, Devontae Parker is really good. We have some third wide receivers that are doable. Obviously, they're no Jamar Chase. I'm not saying they are, but I think, when you look at true need, you probably need D-line more. You need to shore up the run game. You probably need offensive line more than wide receiver. This is kind of a sexy
but it is the amount of talent that Jamar Chase has.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I love it. Let me be fair.
He is leaps and bounds above any O-line you would take right now, any D-line that you would think to take right now. Jamar Chase is a special talent. There's a reason that Justin Jefferson was able to do what he did, and then you're like, man, he's good, but wait till Jamar Chase comes out.
Yeah,
that's what.
No, I absolutely agree. And look, as I said, I love it. I will be so fucking ecstatic if we get a guy like this as a Dolphins fan. But I did have that would we go for the more traditional, this is our needs type of pick, or do we truly just say, hey, Jamar Chase is the best player on the board, let's take him?
Yeah.
Well, let's move on. I'll let you give number 9 here.
Yeah, number 9, Jalen Waddle, wide receiver. I like it going to the Philadelphia Eagles. They need a guy who's really going to be able to step up. And listen, at the end of the day, maybe it wasn't the weapons surrounding Carson Wentz. Maybe it was just Carson Wentz. Jalen Hurts has been able to come on this past week, especially in that victory over the Saints, and he spread the ball well. He used a lot of their weapons. We saw Alshon Jeffrey actually play football again. Mm-hmm. It was different. Jalen Reagor, he's an electric guy that he's just having a problem. I think the COVID year really hurt him getting into that offense as a whole. But getting Jalen Waddle coming back off this injury, he is an elite athlete and someone who might actually be able to hit in this Eagles wide receiver core because they have missed on many guys in the past.
The real question is, do they go wide receiver 2 years in a row when you have a beat up roster the way they do, where they could go in a lot of different directions and probably be okay?
I think you do. The offensive line has been injured. I don't think that means that you've missed. You're missing Brandon Brooks. You had to kick out Jason Peters over to guard, and Lord knows he can barely do that.
Yeah.
So losing Andre Dillard.
Let me ask you this: what would you put the Bovada odds at them just taking wide receiver? If it's not Jalen Waddle, it's Deontay Smith or whoever it is. Where would you put it in that regard?
I think it's in the minus category. I really do. I think that's how big of a favorite it should be for them to take a wide receiver. Anything else, and it's like, okay, explain now.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you say Philadelphia needs wide receiver, yeah, move along with our day. We're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Just pick which one you want right there.
Fair enough. And look, we don't need to tell you why Jalen Waddle's good. Just another in a long line of great Alabama wide receivers. Honestly, the biggest conversation is who's going to be better, Waddle or Smith. There's going to be two out there and who knows? I think Waddle.
Is Alabama wide receiver you?
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
I think it's over. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really. It shouldn't be an argument. I mean, you
Julio,
go back.
Calvin, Amari, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs. I mean, it is crazy. There's a mention for LSU.
LSU has some great ones with Odell, Justin Jefferson. Yeah,
Jarvis.
Of course. Listen, the SEC is wide receiver. You at the end of their wide receiver
conference. They put a lot of good ones out.
But I mean, you look at Alabama, and it's just like, man. It used to be every other year that they had a top end wide receiver. Now it seems like it's every year.
They're a damn machine.
Yeah, they're gonna have 4 in 2 years that go in the first round. I mean, just ridiculous. So I absolutely agree. Let's close it out with our short 10 pick mock draft, and the Giants come in at number 10. A lot of conversation here. We ended up going Kwity Paye. Did I say that? I might have butchered that name. I apologize. Defensive lineman out of Michigan. I am nervous about this guy, and I'm nervous about this guy in the same reason that I get nervous about Florida corners. It's just because I've seen so many miss, and that is not fair. I understand that.
You're talking Michigan.
Michigan defensive linemen. I've seen too many miss, and granted, the good ones end up going in the mid rounds to the Patriots, and the bad ones go in the first round to the Packers. Weird scenarios. But it's just very, very nerve-wracking to me for me to say that he should be there. But look, he's done nothing wrong. Don't grade the jersey, grade the player, and he is an all-time one of the best players in college football.
The player's very talented. I think he's going to be the first defensive lineman off the board. I really like Gregory Rousseau a lot. He's been falling down a lot of people's boards coming off of.
Yeah. He could end up going in the 20s.
Yeah, he really could. He really could. And it just shows where this is going to be a year, though, where we, like I said, we really get to see analysts put their money where their mouth is. There's going to be guys, like you said, that we haven't seen play. Jamar Chase in a few years, Caleb Farley in a few seasons, Rondale Moore, minimal film. There are quarterbacks and Trey Lance where you get to see where they're going to put them. There's going to be so many different mock draft boards where it's like, wow, he's a 6 here, but he's a 26 here.
Yeah.
Because it just depends on where everything falls. Kwity Paye goes here. He helps out a young Giants defense that's getting some attitude to them later on in the year. The other option for me would have been wide receiver. I just think that Darius Slayton is a good one. Golden Tate is probably going to be off the team next year, aging and going. Daniel Jones, I like where he's going moving forward, so get him another target to throw to.
And this is just a guy, he's going to fit in that tried and true New England style defensive lineman that they look for, just those big ugly type of guys that'll move the pocket, play, do everything right. In the same vein as the Dolphins took a Christian Wilkins, who I don't think anybody was like super excited about that pick, but he's just been such a solid, good player throughout his young career, and the Dolphins are very happy with that pick. Hopefully that's the same kind of pick they get with the Giants here. Yeah. A solid, good Pro Bowl type of guy who can be there for the next 10 years and lining up in the middle of that defensive line. That's great. Anywhere else you want to go with draft?
No, we're going to be bouncing back and forth to it all the time now.
Yeah, so let's finish it up and let's talk college, because this is going to be the biggest week in college football. A lot of big games, a lot of conference games. I want to pull it up. I want to pull up some odds on Bovada here, and we're just going to kind of go through some of the big games, see what you're thinking. We're not going to worry too much about winners, losers, but like how can this affect the overall draft, the overall 4 teams that end up in the finals? All of those things are going to have to be thought about here. And let me pull it up. I'm struggling. Where do you want to go with this first?
Well, I think we need to look at the 1 through 4 right now and kind of see how that's going to shape up with championship weekend coming up.
Yeah.
And Clemson and Notre Dame about to play each other. I'm sorry, but if Notre Dame is able to edge out that game, and they did the first time around, Clemson, you're out. And it's unfortunate to say, with as loaded of a roster that you have, that's probably the way that it's just going to fall this time around. Yeah. I would put my money on Clemson. Bovada has them as a 10-point favorite. It's hard to bet on a 10-point spread when you just lost previously, but I think Trevor Lawerance is dynamic enough to where he's able to swing that in their favor.
Everyone needs to remember Trevor Lawerance wasn't there, and it still went to double overtime. And a rookie quarterback, or freshman quarterback, made a freshman mistake and took a sack when he shouldn't have. Game was pretty much over after that. I don't think Trevor Lawerance would make that mistake. I don't think Trevor Lawerance would let his team be in that situation. To me, this is Clemson's game to lose. I think Notre Dame should be kicked out of the playoffs if they lose this. Can we agree that this is just an extended playoff game, essentially?
It's hard to say. There are so many different scenarios that you can go through on this. Alabama's in. They're locked. It's done, dead.
Well, what if they lose?
No, they're in.
I see what you're saying.
Bama's in no matter what. I don't care.
You're saying even if they lose the SEC championship, they're
they
still
could get their absolute teeth kicked in, and they're still.
I don't know if I agree with that. You think so?
You cannot name another team that'll go in. A 2-loss Florida.
Yeah. Okay. No, you're right. You're right.
The 1-loss A&M. Who's that lost to? Alabama.
Okay, but look, if
Alabama's a guaranteed in, I would put my life on it.
If Alabama gets their 17-point favorite, if Alabama gets their teeth kicked in, which I don't think either of us think is going to happen, but if Alabama loses by 20 to Florida still can't get in, 2-loss. But Texas A&M at number 5, if they win, they're probably in over Alabama.
Yeah, you're going to have 2 SEC teams.
You think Alabama drops to 4?
No matter what Alabama is in, there is no way that they're going to be out of this scenario.
We agree, because at the end of the day, Alabama is going to beat Florida. So I'll lay that to bed.
Well, no, you have to talk about an argument to it. I mean, that's why I said Alabama's a lock, because win or lose, they're in my book. But if there's a way that you think that they're out, Ohio State has played a minimal schedule. I don't think you can justify a 6-game. That the best team that they played was Indiana, and they struggled with them. I'm sorry. I think Bama getting through their schedule the way that they have in the dominant fashion. They've outscored almost 500 to 150.
Listen, I agree. I think Alabama is probably going to win it all. I think Alabama's a great team.
If Bama gets the shit kicked out of them, the narrative's that they were looking ahead, and they're still in.
Yeah, but if you're looking at it, it's not going to happen. I disagree with you, but I don't think it's going to happen. So we'll leave that leave that to bed. Let's go lock them. Let's go back to Clemson Notre Dame. Can we agree that the loser is not going to get into the playoffs, right?
Most likely.
Yeah, I don't see a way where, because this is the number 2-3 matchup anyway. So this is the playoffs. But it just ends up being the ACC championship ahead of time, which is great for the number 5 and number 6 team that actually is going to have a chance to sneak in there. I do not think if Notre Dame loses this game, they just lost to Clemson. Both these teams have to be going in thinking that this is playoffs, because if Clemson loses to Notre Dame twice, once with Trevor Lawerance and once without, they're out. And if Notre Dame loses to Clemson, well, they just lost to the team that they were going to just play. So that's the game.
I get that, and you wouldn't want that refresher on your minds as a committee. But I think there are lesser teams down there that it's hard to jump. What happened with Florida in that LSU loss? I don't know if you saw the way that played out, but Marco Wilson is Quincy Wilson's brother at Florida.
Yeah,
got an unsportsmanlike for throwing a shoe.
Well,
that cost him, man.
Even before that, I mean, the fluky interception, I think in the second quarter where
there was just a lot of ways that game just wasn't happening.
Yeah, but Florida probably should have won that game. It was just kind of like I said, very fluky interception.
I think they were looking ahead to Alabama.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. You know, but again, I think if that game is played 10 times, Florida probably wins that 9 times out of 10. It just wasn't their day. So Florida is in a situation where they can't get in 2 losses. I get that. Who else?
Right now we have the winner of Clemson Notre Dame. They're locked. Bama locked. Winner of Clemson Notre Dame locked. So we have a 1 and 2. We don't know the Clemson Notre Dame. We'll take that for what it is.
Yeah.
There's an argument for Notre Dame to get in. If they lose by a field goal to Clemson, there is an argument that they're going to get in because you have the 1-loss Notre Dame and you have a 1-loss Texas A&M.
Okay, so I would think in that scenario you need Texas A&M to lose to Tennessee.
That's not happening.
Okay, I'm just saying I don't think Texas A&M deserves to get kicked out. Texas A&M deserves to get that number 4 spot. Texas A&M is in. Honestly, if they're number 5 now, one of these teams loses. Texas A&M deserves that 4 spot.
Drop past that. At the current moment, the committee's debating in Ohio State, Texas A&M right now.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think it's Texas A&M. Texas A&M plays a full SEC schedule, and you don't let them in to at least have a chance at Alabama. I would think they're going to sneak into number 4.
I don't like Texas A&M this year.
I don't think they would win. I think logically.
Why put them in, though? The committee has based itself on putting in the best value product that we're going to see.
Man, this is where we get to. It's like, especially this year, and I know you disagree with this, but this year, they should have done a 16-team playoffs. They should have. This is the fucking COVID year, and I think the teams that had to play a half schedule. If Oregon was a 1-loss team and played well down the stretch, Oregon should have had a chance to come in. I'm looking at maybe a Pac-12 team that had half a schedule and maybe could have done something, looked really good. I'm saying all these like extra teams should get a chance during COVID year. I don't know. It just feels like I get that it's too much and all that, but at the same time, it's been a condensed season already, so it's not like these kids are playing too many games. I don't see what would be wrong with that. Even if you don't like 10, you could do an NFL style where the top 2 get a bye and you have 8 on 8, so 10 teams get in.
There's a way that it sounds better to the ear. 16, I think, is too many. I don't want to see a Coastal Carolina. I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe it'd be cool to give them their shot and see how it goes. But man, you're going to say that whenever it's just a boring game. And at the end of the day, you're not. TV ratings matter to the committee whenever they go into these certain things. There's a reason they don't like to schedule whenever 2 SEC teams made it. They don't like them facing off again back to back. People don't want to see that. Anyone north of the Mason-Dixon line hates the SEC. I'm sorry. They don't want to see any more teams in right there. They're the ones saying Ohio State's jumping to Texas A&M. It's up for debate. Ohio State is a better football team than Texas A&M. Texas A&M is built in the trenches.
But Ohio State hasn't lost. They're gonna play Northwestern this week. They're favored by 21 points according to Bovada, and I do believe they will win that game. And they're in the playoffs. They're gonna get their shot. They're the team that everyone thought was gonna be good down the stretch. They're gonna get their shot. And it's one of the situations where they didn't get to play their big game against Michigan, and I still think they're probably gonna get in anyway.
And I think they should. It's like you said, that's where the argument for more teams comes in, because you shouldn't punish any of these kids for what they've gone through.
By the way, just a quick aside, we had a bet during the offseason, not before we really realized how bad this COVID year was going to affect us. It was a $50 bet, and you picked 2 teams. I took the field, right? So you took Clemson and Ohio State to win the national championship. I take the field, right? Just a fun bet, like no big deal. We talked about it last week, where if Ohio State didn't get to play Michigan, that we would call it null and void, and I was fine with that. They didn't get to play Michigan, but they're still in the conversation within. Do you want to keep that bet going or not?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious how you felt about that.
The only reason that I didn't want to get in because of some rule that said you have to have 6 games played to play in this championship. They modified that. Yes, a lot of the nation was upset, but I'm sorry. In a COVID year, we all have to realize that we have to be flexible with our rules. You can't punish a really good Ohio State team. I don't like Ohio State. I never once will rep Ohio State in any way, but they shouldn't be punished for a game being canceled on Michigan's part due to COVID. It's just not right. I think Ohio State's going to represent in there. I think Ohio State should edge out a 1-loss Texas A&M,
and they will. I think,
and they should. And Texas A&M's shot is they need Clemson to demolish Notre Dame. They need Clemson to come out and show Trevor's the reason why y'all beat us.
I look at the situation right now, and you can disagree with me, but I look at the situation where really no matter what, assuming Ohio State and Texas A&M win, all right, that's the key. If both those teams win, obviously, we have Ohio State playing Northwestern favored by 21 points according to Bovada, and Texas A&M playing Tennessee favored by 14 points according to Bovada. Both of those games are games they should win. If they win, no matter what happens, they're in. Because Clemson Notre Dame, a team is going to lose this Clemson Notre Dame game that's going to be played at 3:00 on the 19th. That is a playoff game. That is the fifth playoff game of the year, or however you want to describe it.
It's going to be It's going to be hard to explain Clemson beating Notre Dame, 2 Notre Dame, 5 Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And where do they?
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, this is going to be. I don't know. I don't know how you can say that a team loses, even if you draw up a scenario where Notre Dame wins by 1 point on a fluky play or whatever. Okay, but they still beat Clemson twice, and then flip it around. If
Clemson's out because it's 2 losses. I think the argument arises when you have the 1-loss Notre Dame.
Yeah, but you have the 1-loss Notre Dame, but you just lost to Clemson. And if you get in, you're going to have to play Clemson again. So I think you're out. I don't know. I get what you're saying. That's just kind of where I'm standing on it. Any other games that you want to talk about this week? Because I think we kind of we disagree.
No, we don't disagree. The committee, the formula they've put out there to the public is that they will put in the best teams, technically regardless of losses. I don't believe that. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that one bit. I think 2 losses means you're out because I think Florida is better than Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. Florida is better than Notre Dame. Texas A&M beat Florida. I think it's just one of those games in college football where sometimes it doesn't fall your way. You lose. But the way that the offense is presented with Kyle Trask in Florida, Heisman winner, by the way. I'll just go ahead and say that. I still think he's getting the Heisman. Bovada has Mac Jones as the favorite for that. I'm good. I'm good on that. Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Texas A&M. Run it.
Fair enough. All right, I absolutely get what you're saying, and I agree with you. Let's move on to the last little topic we want to talk about, then we'll head out. So according to Bovada, the Alabama is the favorite to win the national championship at -150. Clemson comes in second at +275. Ohio State third at +350. Notre Dame at +700. Texas A&M at 3,500. Florida at 6,600, and beyond that, gets a little crazy.
Not happening.
So of those 6 games, 6 teams that I played, and considering the fact that you're taking negative odds, obviously, if you bet on Alabama, who would you bet on here to, sitting here on the 15th before the playoffs have even really been decided officially? Who are you betting on?
Yeah, let me give you an argument for like my Fab 4, I guess. It'll be real quick. Alabama, they are the most dominant team. They are the 1A, and then there's a gap between anyone else there. Mm-hmm. -150, go ahead. I really think that Alabama's going to get it this year with the dominance that they've played. Clemson, I would bet on Clemson solely based on the fact that Dabo and Nick Saban have this rivalry going back and forth. You can't count out Trevor Lawerance in that offense. Ohio State, we've seen minimal on you, so there might be minimal to play against you. And you have elite talent across the board in Chris Olave, the receiver, Justin Fields. You have Sean Wade on defense. There's a lot of big names that are going to be we're going to be seeing in this draft upcoming. Yeah. You never know what can happen. And my last one, Texas A&M at +3,500 odds. I know I shat on you guys. I know I said that I don't think you – listen, you maneuver this SEC schedule in a COVID year very well. Kellen Mond, when you show up and play the games that you were supposed to be playing since day one at A&M, you're almost unbeatable. The running back in Spiller and the offensive line – probably one of the best offensive lines. I love that running back,
man. I really do.
They're tough, man. They are a really good team. And if they are fortunate enough to have someone beat Bama, because I think that's what it would take.
Well, they're going to be that 4 spot, so they have to beat Bama.
Most likely, they would have to go through Bama. But for $5 to put it on +3,500 odds, that's where it helps you out.
Yeah.
And by the way, $5 will win you $175.
Yeah. So you have bigger pockets than us if you have an extra $50 lying around. But if you have an extra $50 lying around, it's the $1,750 to on a $50
that is a massive turnaround. At the end of the day, you got to look at it as this is a 1 through 4 thing. Regardless of names, a 1 through 4 is going to win it. And you have one that has +3,500 odds.
Yeah. So you heard the man. Go on to Bovada. Bet on Texas A&M. That's a great. What do you think? An awesome. I absolutely agree. I take Texas A&M. I think Clemson is probably the most reasonable bet. But if you bet say $20, you could win 55. Again, Clemson still has to go through Notre Dame, and we can say what we want about it. I do think they win that game, but it'll be a tough game. They have 3 playoff games. I would look at Clemson that way. They have 3 playoff games.
Yeah.
Again,
a lot of pressure.
Alabama's the number 1. I won't bet on Alabama only because I feel like I already have a $50 bet on Alabama.
Of course.
Because you have Clemson, Ohio State, and Alabama's really my only chance there. I think realistically, but I agree.
I think you have the favorite odds.
Yeah, and I think I probably am going to put $5 on Texas A&M just to have fun with it, and maybe it hits. Maybe I win $175. I won't be mad at that. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. That is it for us at Between the Pylons, guys. We are on a new channel. We are on the Underdog YouTube video or YouTube channel as well as their podcast network. We want to thank Underdog so much for putting us on. And if you were listening to us on the Underdog network, hey, if you don't mind, come over to the Between the Pylons YouTube channel and subscribe to that. Come over to listen to us on our podcast. We on YouTube especially, we put out a lot of draft profiles and stuff like that. We are constantly putting out football content, so that is I feel like definitely a channel to follow if you're interested in that. I have talked too much. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Peace out.